everyone, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about season 1, episode 8 of Psych.
Yes, and if you are enjoying the show, please let us know. Remember to like, subscribe, and share it. We've actually had a lot of growth, so you guys are definitely sharing it with your friends, so thank you for that as well. And if you do want to follow us on any of our other pages for notifications on when a new episode drops, we are on all of the things, except for Twitter. We don't like Twitter.
We don't like Twitter.
But we're on all of the other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you check out we have links in the description down that go to our Buzzsprout page, and on that page there's links to everything. Also, the Facebook group has links to all of our stuff as well.
Yeah. You can definitely find us. We're so excited because we're seeing more and more posts about filming the third Psych movie. This is Gus is in full swing. They're all in Vancouver. We're seeing posts about dressing rooms and it's all very exciting. It's all very exciting.
I'm really excited for it. I want to know so much more about the plot, but part of me doesn't, because that's one thing I love to do for movies is if it's a movie that I know I'm gonna see, regardless of any details. If I know I'm gonna see this, I try to not see trailers because trailers these days give away
Yes.
so much information, and I
Sometimes
like
you
to be
put the best
surprised.
things in it. Yeah.
Normally they put all of the best things in it. There's some movies that or some trailers that come out, and I don't even need to watch the movie. I've
Right.
seen it in the trailer. I've seen the entire storyline, and it's frustrating. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying they've done this with any past movies. I think they're actually pretty good about just teasing good parts with the Psych movie trailers.
Does give you enough. Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I'm so curious to know what Gus is going to be going through this time. And although we got to be careful what we say too, because we don't want to spoil it for people who
I
are new
know.
to the show.
I know.
We can't
But
discuss
we have
Gus's
to
future
talk about it. Sometimes we have to talk about it.
a
I
little
don't
bit,
know.
a little bit.
It's a very fine line we're walking here.
But yes, we are getting
Yeah.
new information all the time, and we are very
Mhm.
excited about that.
We also would love to know if there's something that you want to hear about the show that we're not including, or like something that you think should be like a regular segment, or anything that you're feeling about the show. Please drop us a message. We'll try to work it into the podcast. Feedback is always welcome. So, don't feel bad about sending us something. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
I am particularly interested in others' opinions on takes that we have about the show. Like
Hmm.
specifically scenes. There's sometimes where you and I really are just completely read a scene differently
Hmm.
and love it or hate it or completely disagree with what the intent was or how the character should have behaved. I'm very interested to see what people think about some of our takes on those, whether they agree, whether
Hmm.
they have a completely different theory, and also if we miss something in the episode. I would love for
Yeah.
someone to catch anything that we missed. Specifically for me, a weakness is going to be the 80s references. There's a lot of pop culture stuff that I do know about, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about from that time. So if there's guest stars in the background or stuff like that we don't talk about, but that you know that they're in that episode and you know how they're somehow connected by some line somewhere, let us know
I
because
would
I'm very interested in
also
that stuff.
Yeah, I would also like to hear if like we're covering your favorite episode, post something about that being your favorite episode. We'd love to hear that because sometimes Matthew and I have very different opinions too about like, he episodes that he liked versus ones that I was like, eh. And you'll definitely see that moving forward. There's one later in the show, or later in the series called Dual Spires. I am not a fan of that episode, and it's one of his favorites. So I
Especially in
would
episode
love,
season 1, I mean. Season 1,
yeah,
we both of us do agree that, the show is, full speed ahead at season 2,
hmm,
but
yeah,
season 1, the ones that I've liked, you normally don't like,
yeah, very, very
and
different
I think
takes.
we'll see with this episode, the opposite ones that you liked that I don't like.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, that's definitely
so
interesting. Also, we do wanna give a shout out to the official Psych Fanatics, Facebook group. You guys have been
absolutely,
great. We love going there to just post any random Psych news. Our Facebook page, I think, is mostly just for the Psych episodes, like the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Questions about the podcast, the episodes we're on, posting when a new one comes out. But this group is a great place that we've been a part of for a while. to just post anything related to Psych. If you find cool
Yeah.
deals on pineapple merch, anything like post
Mhm.
about it on Twitter about the movie, whatever it is. So we
Just
do
a bunch of
appreciate
awesome people, and
that group and all the listeners. We do appreciate your support.
that group is fantastic.
Also, on that news, or on that
Mhm.
note that we just discussed with the emails, we do have someone emailed in, and they had a
Yay.
question for the show. So we do have this one. This one is from Carol. And she says, "Congrats on the podcast. She's really enjoying it so far. I have an opinion question for you. Do you think images of pineapples count towards the Find the Pineapple game? For example, when they're held hostage on a ferry boat, a woman walks by Shawn and Gus with a bag with a pineapple logo on it. Or in Nip and Suck It, Gus's English girlfriend sends him a basket of cookies with pineapple decor on them. I think some of those shouldn't count, but I also think that an actual whole pineapple may not fit into every episode, every scene. Let me know what you think." Well, I think, I think me and Barb are actually both on board with this.
Mhm.
It definitely does count.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't get a pineapple in every episode if it didn't. Like even in these first couple episodes, I think there's been at least two instances. In the wedding episode, it was on her dress, and then
Mhm.
also in Weekend Warriors, although we haven't released that episode yet. That's why that's not here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
in another unstated episode that we've already recorded but haven't dropped yet, it's a pineapple printed on something. So yeah, I do think it definitely counts with their intent. And I do think you bring up a valid point that a whole pineapple like sitting around in every episode
Yeah, I
actually might get corny. Like even if it's chopped up in
right.
some, or like just seeing the same thing in everyone, it might get corny or it might stand out too much. So
I also think it kind of makes it a little too easy for the viewer sometimes.
yeah, pineapples do kind of stand out.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes it too easy. So, if you know that that's a thing about the show, you're kinda looking for them anyway, and I don't think it'd be quite as fun if they were just kinda in your face all the time.
Yeah, it reminds
Having
me of those
said
I
that,
Spy books when I was growing up,
yes.
where they give you like a little hint, but you have to think outside the box. It's not just
Mhm.
pineapple. Sometimes it's a pineapple chunk.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a tidbit. Sometimes it's just an image of a pineapple or a button with a pineapple on it.
And,
Yeah,
having said that, there are times when we do not see them, and we have to look for it. Like, in the episode today, you know
Exhibit A. Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
difficult sometimes to find them.
thank you, Carol, for messaging in. We hope we answered your
Yes.
question well. Anybody else, if you do have any questions about really anything on topic being psych,
Mhm.
send them in and we will answer them on air. It's a fun way to interact with you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for our first question. And we appreciate you listening and hope you keep listening every week. All
All
right,
right,
so
so let's get down to the episode information. Barb, will you
yes. All
start us
right.
out?
We are talking today about the episode titled Shawn versus the Red Phantom. It originally aired on August 26th of 2006, and it was written by Steve Franks, Anupam Nigam, and a staff writer by the name of Tammy Sager. And it was directed by John T. Kretschmer.
See, Kretschmer, never heard of by name, but when I looked into his, repertoire on IMDb, he started back in 1994 directing. That's when his first release was, and he's still releasing shows today. I think the most recent one was the new Walker Texas Ranger show with Jared
Mhm.
Padalecki in it. That was one that he did an episode on. He directed episodes of several shows that I am familiar with and that are really popular, including Xena Warrior Princess, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Star Trek Voyager, and Deep Space Nine. Twilight Zone, I think he had 5 or 6 episodes of. Veronica Mars, Burn Notice, Criminal Minds, I Zombie, which I also love. He did 5 or 6 episodes of that one, and 13 Reasons Why. He did just the one episode of Psych.
Now, I noticed, though, when I was looking him up, that he directed a bunch of USA shows. So, along with the ones that you listed with the Burn Notice, he also directed In Plain Sight, Necessary Roughness, Covert Affairs, and White Collar. So, a lot of USA shows there. Um, Another thing that I noticed was that this time Steve Franks had the co-writers. And Anupam Nigam wrote or co-wrote with Steve Franks 8 episodes of Psych and co-produced them. So I thought that was pretty cool that this is the first time we're kind of seeing a writer that's going to come back and do more.
Hmm.
This episode, the synopsis of this one is that Lassie and the Chief are gone, and Jules gets a case and asks for Shawn to help find a missing person. The search leads Shawn and Gus to a comic book convention, and they locate the missing people and solve the crime.
And what did you think about this episode?
I thought this was a really fun episode. For me, the whole background of this was just entertaining the whole time. Um, I love the flirtation between Shawn and Jules. I love how Gus sort of had the upper hand in this episode. This was his world, and he made sure that Shawn knew that, and I really enjoyed that part. I like too that we got a little bit more Lassie backstory in like the B the back burner plot of this episode. We got a little bit more Lassie backstory. So I really, really enjoyed that part as well.
Hmm.
What about you?
I I am on the opposite end.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I
It
thought that
happened.
I was. I thought that I was gonna like this one last week. I
Yeah.
think whenever we actually ended last episode's podcast,
Yeah.
I saw that this one was next, and I was excited for it. And I don't know why. I don't know if I really enjoyed it before and just a rewatching, I don't like it as much. But I did not like, and I identified it because I watched it twice, and I tried to figure out what it was I didn't like about it, and I think I identified it.
Okay.
Shawn is really cool in this one. Like he's like too cool. Like with how his attitude is to all the nerdy stuff and everybody he's with. Like he's constantly making fun of everybody. And it's I don't know, it's like maybe it's a cliche thing and it's like I don't know. And maybe it's also based on his character change in the future because he does get a little more sillier and he does lose that cool persona a little bit later on. He still always has his like style, but I don't know. This episode, I felt like he was a little bit playing it a little bit too cool the entire time.
So I kind of think he's always like that with Gus because he's always pointing out things that Gus will do that are like a little more nerdy. I don't really, to me, it didn't seem so different. I think it's interesting that you had that take on it though, but to me, it felt like everything else, like the spelling bee or do you know what I mean? Like even after the spelling bee, he's telling Gus like, I saved you. Like he was always the cooler one.
Yeah, I don't know. That just didn't feel the same as this one. Like the other
Yeah.
thing, and you brought it up, is how you thought the background was all really entertaining. And this is maybe where I don't know. It's kind of comes into like the gun thing, like with the hammer and the gun. Like I was looking at that background stuff, looking for like maybe guest stars or like different
Mhm.
appearances and stuff like that for the show. And like I half the stuff, like I don't even know. I think most of it wasn't like anything real. Like none of it was real,
Well,
like
they can't
comic
use
stuff.
that licensed stuff. That's
Sure,
all
but they
licensed.
could they could get close. I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
It
I don't
it
know.
threw me
I
off
don't
because
know.
a lot of it wasn't like super good, like cosplays in the background. A lot of it wasn't super good, like I don't know. It
Well,
just
they
didn't
weren't
feel as
in
real.
LA. I mean, like they weren't in LA or New York. I mean, it was going
I
to be a
guess
smaller one, but I
that's
think your
true, and
expectations were a little bit too high here, Matt. I'm just saying, I thought it was entertaining background because there was so much happening. Whether it was accurate, like because they was sure it was as accurate as they could be without using licensed stuff, but it was very like it was colorful and there was like so much going on. That's what
mhm.
I liked about it. But I don't
The
know.
other thing that I didn't like about this, I mean, there's a couple things. I will attest to what you said before that
Mhm.
Juliet and Shawn did have some fun moments where they were flirting, they were kind of relying on each other, and that was a fun
Mhm.
relationship. Um, but I also didn't like the side story with Lassiter and the chief. I just had zero interest in the chief and her baby, and I don't know. I almost thought it'd be more interesting if she had the baby with Shawn and Gus around.
You're giving away so much about the episode right now. but yes.
maybe, maybe. But I just didn't find that arc interesting.
Okay.
I almost might have rather would have seen like Lassiter maybe at the con and how he interacted with people. Like
Now
telling
is it
everybody to stop
okay.
being like ridiculous, like like everybody like grown men dressed in costumes.
But see, to me, that would have been expected. And I think we needed the dynamic of the chief and Lassie not
Maybe,
being around to let Juliet depend on Shawn a little bit.
maybe.
I think we kind of needed that sort of separation because that would have been so expected. If Lassie had been at that convention, he would have had the Lassie face, the
Yeah,
Froud Burrow and all that, you know what I mean? It would have been very predictable. I
I could
liked
see
that he
that.
wasn't there.
I am. I just in general I wasn't a huge fan of the episode. Not like I thought I was gonna be. For whatever reason, I thought I really liked this one.
I'm surprised. I really am.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
I don't know. I just can't quite put my finger on it.
Well, let's get into it. Let's break it down. We start at our favorite point, flashback. Little Shawn wearing his little towel cape. It was so cute. And the look of disappointment when he comes around the corner and sees his dad on the porch.
Yeah, this is one thing that I was kind of weird about. So, like right at 1 minute, Henry explains to Sean that he doesn't like superheroes because they minimize actual police work, and they instill this idea that you have to be to be a hero, you need to be super and have some ability, and if you don't have an ability, you essentially just call someone who does. And I thought that this, while I do see the logic in his argument, I thought it was a weird take. I don't know. I just thought it was a very strange stance for Henry to take. Because I mean, sometimes like these heroes inspire people to be heroes. Like even if they, I mean, I don't know. Do you see what I mean? Like, do you think this
Well,
was a
I
weird take at all?
do.
Did this throw you? That he's
No.
like, I don't want you reading comic books. Like,
Yeah, I did not think that it was a weird take based on how Henry's character has always put police work at a way up there kind of place. It didn't surprise me even a little bit because and he said it even he was like it makes the cops look like like what did he say, bumbling
yeah, like
idiots or
bumbling idiots
something.
or something.
Yeah, and that they have
I
to put
get
out a
that part.
signal for a superhero to find them. So being a cop, I would think it would kind of rub him the wrong way. And I think with his intention of always wanting Shawn to be a cop when he gets older and everything he's taught him, he's kind of going, dude, you don't rely on the people who fly. Like this is not real. Like get your head out of the clouds. It's not real. Don't do that. Rely on all these things that I've taught you and do this for real. And
Mhm.
so I wasn't surprised at all by this take.
See, maybe this is just another one of those things where it hit me the wrong way, or I don't know. Maybe over
Yeah.
time it just I don't know. After this young Sean scene, we go into the theme song, and then we start out the episode at 3 minutes 38 seconds. I'm sorry, at 2 minutes and 4 seconds. We start off in the police station. We see Juliet at her desk. She looks a little bit flustered, and then she gets a phone call from Sean. So begins their, you know, little bit of flirtation in
Yeah,
there.
she's obviously she's got her little sore neck. And
Hmm.
I loved how he did this. I love it. He was
Yeah, it
watching
was
her.
very
She had
smooth.
no idea from where. And he's like, you need a massage. She's
It
like,
was
where
very
are
smooth.
you? It was very, very cute how he did that. I love it. You can really start to see in this episode his little crush. I mean, there have been little
I feel like
tidbits,
we've been
but
able to see it several
yeah,
episodes. I
but
mean, he's
it's
been
like,
very clear about it at some points too.
I really love it though. It's so cute. It's
Hmm.
so cute.
But
Yeah.
yeah, through this call, we find out that uh, Juliet is stressed out because the chief and Lester are out of town at a conference, and she's been left in charge. So it's kind of a moment for her.
Mm-hmm.
We also find out that Sean is mysteriously calling her from the chief's office, and we get some funny comments about like why
A
nobody looks
bold
in there.
move.
Yeah, like it's not like the belly bites. Like yeah, let's get some funny comments about that. But
Hmm. I thought it was cool that we're able to see in this scene that she's not afraid to ask for his help. When Lassie's around, it's a very different situation. It's more, oh, we have to do everything police work. We're not, I thought it was kind of cool to see that she's open to his help, especially when there's no one there. Like
Mhm.
and it wasn't like she was hiding it. She wasn't nothing. She just is like open. Hey, let's look at this.
And it also is, I think it's also worth noting that this case. So Juliet's in the chief's office, and she asks him about the case, or she tells him about the case and the possibility. So what's going on is this kid is gone missing, and his mom is worried about him, but he's only been missing for 24 hours, and he's 18. So she has
Mhm.
this like rule that where she can't actually start a case until it's been 48 hours, and she kind of goes unofficial and getting him to like preemptively look into it
Mhm.
to see if it's a case to get a head start on it. Like she cares. She knows the rules, but she still cares about everybody and still wants to help even when she's not supposed to yet.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good thing worth noticing. But there was a funny scene in this. So when Juliet comes into the office, she is talking to Shawn. She hands him the pad and tells him to like look at the case,
Mhm.
and she's going around the office closing all the blinds, and then it gets to the double doors that lead into the office, and they're glass doors, but there's no blinds. Like there's blinds on every other window
Mhm.
except for the doors. And there's this weird like pause that she has where she like looks at it. She like
Like,
annoyingly
really?
shrugs, and like yeah, she annoyingly shrugs and then turns around. And I was so curious in that scene because it looked so natural. I'm so curious in that scene if this was written in, or if
Or if it would
she
yeah.
like improv it. She's like, keep it you want to walk in here and keep it secret, play it out like you don't want people to know what you're doing. And maybe she walked around the room and started closing the blinds, and then Maggie Lawson got to the doors and was like,
Mhm.
why are there no blinds here? This doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Like, really?
It looked like such a natural shrug. I actually tried looking up I tried looking for a script, and I can't
Mhm.
find the scripts. I found a couple for some like notable episodes, like American Duos, the car one.
Mhm.
I found a couple of them, but they don't have the scripts for episode one. All I found is like type ups where people have typed up. Um,
Maybe we
yeah, yeah,
could reach out to Miss Maggie Lawson on social media and see if she has an answer for that.
that would actually be really cool because we
Yeah.
could literally put in that exact point in that
Mhm.
episode, and she can go to it, and maybe it'd be a quick thing that she can go to.
Yeah.
We could even include a link to like Amazon Prime. Like all you do is click the link and it pops right up to hit play. That would be pretty cool.
I think
Or
we
I
need
could
to try
probably get
that.
like a GIF or like a little snap that we could post
Mhm.
on Twitter and send it to her maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I think we should
that's
give it a
cool.
try. Let's see.
I like
We're
that.
gonna okay, for all the listeners, we're gonna see if we can get an answer from Maggie Lawson about that.
I
Okay?
mean, I
Maybe.
think it's possible.
Maybe
In the
I do
Psych
too.
Fanatics group, Corbin Benson and Kurt Fuller are both apparently members of the group, and they've done interviews before. And
Yes.
they're fan favorite
Mhm.
characters, but they're also
Yeah,
interactive with the fans too. So it's very
absolutely.
possible if it's not a super difficult thing that she might respond.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So next we're at 5 minutes, 39 seconds. Shawn and Gus are visiting the house of the first possible victim, this missing kid, and his mom is there. So when they go in, the mom said, this was hysterical to me. The mom says, "Can I get you anything?"
Yes.
Shawn has asked her for pancakes. So here, like,
Yes.
her kid is missing. He's gone. She doesn't know where he is. And Shawn has asked her to make them pancakes. And then, but can we just add to that the warm syrup? Did you catch that?
Yes.
That
So, hold on, but even beyond that, before we even get to the syrup,
uh
he says that she offered. She never offered to make them pancakes.
right,
Normally, she's like, "Can I get
right.
you anything?"
Like, "Do
Means
you want some
coffee,
water?"
water, maybe a cookie. Like she had to pull out a griddle for this. I thought that was really funny as well. It was a good silliness factor, and then the warm
Mhm.
syrup on top of that. Um, Gus really, God, Gus just lets Shawn just really get him. He
Just
get lets him get him. It happens again
I
in this
know.
episode too later on,
I
but
know. I love it. Okay, so they've had pancakes. Now we're at about 7 minutes and something, close to 8 minutes. Shawn is jumping on the victim's bed. He goes into the room. I think you have a note about this beforehand.
All right, so that's 7 minutes 47 seconds. We are in Malone's room. Malone is the victim, and Shawn is in there with Gus and his mom, and he's kind of looking around, seeing if he can find any clues. And he does find some drywall dust, essentially above the bed, underneath a ceiling light.
Mhm.
And he has the scene where he goes and like stands on the bed, and he starts to reach up towards the light, and then he starts like he's giving it a little bit of a bounce,
I loved this so much. I
and yeah, he's like he does a bounce, almost like if you were standing on a trampoline
uh
and you're not bending your knees to jump, you're just feeling the sway and the give of the trampoline surface.
Mhm.
And then he makes this like comment about like this feels like a bed that you could put a wine glass on and drop the bowling ball on, and it doesn't move.
Then he goes, Gus, go get a glass of wine and a bowling ball.
Yes, and
Gus,
I'm sure the mom is just
Gus's
like, "What is
face,
going on?"
Gus's face when Shawn said when he says some of these things to Gus, the look on his face, like Dolly Hill is amazing because like he's like so like I'm gonna kill you, Shawn. Like seriously, it makes me laugh so hard. Just his face is great.
I think in this scene, he actually he gives him like a look, and then Shawn keeps bouncing, and he's like, "Shawn, can you tell the spirits to hurry the hell up?" Like,
That's right.
I love when Gus fast forwards him because this happens very often, especially in the beginning. He
He's
like
like,
presses
I've had
fast
enough.
forward. He's like skip 15 seconds ahead. Like,
Love that so much. So
oh god.
so after he jumps on the bed, he does find that in the light fixture of this kid's room, there's a 'cause see, I could keep laughing about that for a long
Oh my
time, but
god. Oh
but,
man, I'm recovering. I'm
so
recovering.
so
Oh.
he does find, like, all this money in this kid's ceiling under the light fixture, and so then they leave the house at 8 minutes, 55 seconds, wondering how this kid has all this money that they found.
Mhm. Scoot forward a little bit, like in between our scenes at 9.5 minutes when they leave the victim's house and they're trying to find out where to go. They get this little scene with Shawn and Gus out by the car, and they're talking about um, where they headed. What's the next step in this clue?
Mhm.
And Gus is full on enjoying the fact that he knows where they're going. Like he knows what's
Yep.
next. He found a clue in the bedroom and Shawn didn't. And he's got this like confident swagger about
Yep.
him.
He
He keeps
goes he
touching his
goes,
nose with his thumb and
"Uh-huh." He goes, "You mean you don't know where they are?"
I thought you were better than this, Shawn. Mm.
It was fantastic.
And what we find out is that Gus pulled out of the wastebasket, and I love that he called it a wastebasket and not the trash
Mhm.
can. It's such a Gus thing to call it a wastebasket.
Right?
He pulled out of the wastebasket crumpled up directions to the comic book convention, and they also noticed in the bedroom that there was comic crap all over the place, like figures and posters and all that stuff. So yeah, Shawn got ahead, and I'm sorry, Gus got ahead, and he had his moment to shine with Shawn.
I'd
Mm.
also like to note Gus's suit in that scene was
Looks too
on
big.
point.
What?
No,
I thought it
it
looked too
was
big.
so perfect with the striped shirt and the striped suit. Oh my gosh, it was perfect.
Maybe it's
I
because the
I was
jacket was
like, that
open,
was on
but
point. No, it was good.
yeah, so we do get one scene where we get a Gus nickname, and because Gus knew where to travel to, Shawn's like, "Okay, all right, Chocolate Columbo, where are we going? Where are we going?" He's playing into his ego a little bit, and he still picks at him some. So
This is clearly one of those episodes, though, where without Gus, Shawn would be nothing. Like, he would not have
mhm.
solved this crime without Gus.
I mean, I feel like
Um,
it happens most of the time, but this one was
yeah,
a bigger one. Like Shawn really wouldn't have had no idea
y
where to go if he missed
yeah.
this. So.
I mean, Gus usually contributes in little ways, pharmaceutical ways and things like that, but this episode, like, For me, it's kind of like Harry Potter without Hermione. Like it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
he's got to have his Gus. But anyway, okay. So 10 minutes 29 seconds. Lassie and the chief are in the car together. Right away when they go to this scene, it's uncomfortable. You feel the uncomfortableness coming right out of the screen in the scene.
I almost made that note. I didn't
Okay.
make any notes out of protest because I really did not enjoy
Oh my gosh. It was
these scenes with them in the
pivotal.
car. It was uncomfortable
It
and
was pivotal.
it was awkward, especially when she was like not even listening to him for the beginning of it.
That was the
Yeah.
beauty because he thought she was listening to him and she was on the phone with her earpiece. And it was so beautiful because if she really had heard what he said, she just smacked him silly. Like it was so good. Like
He
I
really did have
love
a
these
long
scenes.
train of just
Yeah,
poor
and
like
he's
her.
like, "Yeah, and they hired a woman and da 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 because it's a boy's."
Oh,
She
no, no,
would
they
have,
started with interim. He's like, I was
yeah,
really excited when they made you the interim chief. I'm sure
but that won't,
that's only temporary, but
yeah.
it was a good call to go with a woman. You know,
Oh,
I won't get me wrong. I did like the old chief. He was
mm-hmm.
kind of
A
a mentor
mentor.
to me. Yeah, he did have a series of just really poor choice like statements.
Yes, it was better that she did not hear him.
Although, did you
Much
see the
better.
size of that Bluetooth earpiece?
It
That
was,
was gigantic. That was like a
well,
baby
we'll
finger.
talk
It
about
was,
that in
yeah,
the how does this hold up?
yeah, yeah. That was
Um,
that was a big one.
my next note I have here
Oh
is
god.
Shawn and Gus, 11 minutes, 19 seconds. They are walking into this convention, and
Oh, I love this part.
Gus says, "You can't just walk into the con."
Mhm.
Right
I
there.
love it.
Shawn was like, "What? What did you call it? The con?" It's like this such a difference
Yeah, it's like,
between
"You've been
what
trying
they
to get
know.
tickets." I've been trying to get tickets for a week, they've been sold out. And this is another one,
Oh
this
god.
is another good thing where or another classic Gus moment where he has another interest where
Mhm.
he's tried to get, like, tickets or seats or, like, an invite to it,
Mhm.
and again, they're full. It happened with the spelling bee. I feel like it's happened another time in one of our first 8 episodes that we've done, but I can't think of it now, but I know this has happened several times throughout the show where Gus is interested in something that nobody knew about, even Shawn, and he's tried to get, like, tickets to go to a conference or a show or, like, something like that, and
Mhm.
he was unable to get it. Mm.
Yeah.
Well, at 11 minutes 57 seconds, this is before they get into the show or into
Mhm.
the con. This is while they're still talking about it, trying to come up with a plan, and Shawn sees that George Takai is possibly gonna show up, and he overhears that there's some issues with blueberries, and and that's a big deal to George. So he gets an idea to get in using that in this grift. However, as it pans away from Shawn, we do get this like terribly obvious add-in for like a voiceover where that like nobody was there at the time they did it. They did this in editing where they just had somebody like go into a mic and say this. It was some comment about not alienating the Star Trek fans.
Oh,
But like nobody was on screen talking. It was just a voice recording and it was so obviously added in. I don't know. I thought it was weird. I didn't even see the point for adding it in. But like the sound of the mic was different. Like it didn't match the crowd's voice.
I
It didn't match
totally
Shawn and
did not
Gus's
catch
voice.
that.
I
I
don't know.
did not catch it.
Maybe it's because I've been
I guess
doing
I
like
was
editing more,
in the
but
world,
yeah, I don't know. I
or
saw it
maybe I
and
was maybe I was too focused on what I'm about to talk about. So
maybe.
there so they get up to the guy who's like, the ticket taker,
Hmm.
and this guy's name is Mark. Mark tries to stop them from entering. He's like, "Do you guys have tickets?" And I just need to take a moment right now to address this guy's comb over.
Hmm.
This
It's so obvious. It's so terrible.
can't talk. It's it is from so far down the side of his head.
Yeah, they're stretching. Like, yeah.
It was so distracting to me. And what I loved was as they're talking to the guy, once they get to the end of their little grift, which I know we'll talk some more about, but they do address it. They say that horrible comb over will be the least of your worries. And I was like, thank you for saying something. I needed that validation because I was so stuck on it. Like, I couldn't even move past it. I was pausing it, looking at this comb over, like, seriously, what were they doing?
Well, that's a real thing. Like, whenever
It
something
was
is
so
so
funny.
obvious that it
Oh.
like stands out and nobody mentions it, that's a very real thing. That's something that like comedians do all the time. If there's a comedian
Mhm.
that goes on stage that has like a very obvious thing that stands out, they have to address it so people can enjoy the show. And that's the
Right.
same thing here. You literally get this relief wash over you when he actually brings it up for
Yeah.
some weird reason. I don't know.
It
But
was
yeah.
like, thank you for
Although
addressing
in
that
this
comb
scene,
over.
I think there were again, like it kind of reminded me of Juliet with the weird shrug when there was no blinds. It was like this subtle little thing that you could have missed, but it really, I don't know, it hit me. I thought it was really funny during this grift that they're doing, where they're trying to pretend to be George Takei's assistants to get into the con. Shawn references George Takei's character incorrectly twice. The first time he does it and Gus is like right next to him, he kind of whispers real quick into his shoulder. It's like Commander Sulu or something, or like not
Mhm.
Chekhov, because Shawn says Chekhov, and then towards the end of his rant, Shawn does it again, and Gus comes back again with like a retort, like to correct him, but also to
Mhm.
save him. He's like, still Sulu. So Shawn got the name wrong the first time. Gus corrected him and told him it was Sulu. Shawn got the name wrong a second time, and Gus is like, still Sulu. And it was just this really quick thing, and I don't know, it really tickled me. I thought it was really funny the way Shawn like messed it up twice, and Gus felt the need to say it again.
Like,
Uh,
because Sean didn't care enough about it the first time.
right, like
You know,
Shawn
like,
probably
was he
knew.
really
I just think
gonna.
he didn't care the second time
Sure.
either.
He didn't. He didn't care at all.
But
We
Gus
jump
cared.
ahead, like we've now they've moved through the con a little bit. They're going through everybody, talking to people. At 14 minutes 28 seconds, I thought it was funny that Gus just continues to school Sean on all things superhero. He starts telling him about no, they've I'll back up and say that they have met movie um movie promoters for the new movie The Red Phantom. And they're going around talking about it, and Gus is letting Sean know that he thinks it's going to be a flop and all this because of this website called Fortress of Attitude, and they like rate these superhero movies and that sort of thing. And I just think it's funny, like all through this episode so far, like Sean has just been schooling Gus every chance that he gets on what's going on,
Mhm.
and and he likes it. You know that Gus likes it, so
The name is also a
yeah.
reference to the Fortress of Solitude, which is
Yeah.
Superman's home. Um,
Yeah, I got
but
that.
yeah, no, in this scene, I mean, I wasn't sure. I just want to make sure, make sure you're up to date with all the
Yeah.
terminology. So since they arrived at the con, this is something I took a note about as well. Sean has been roasting him, and this goes into what I was saying before the episode. Sean has just been roasting him relentlessly every time something nerdy happens or he mentions that he's a fan of something. And yeah, Gus hits his breaking point, and he realizes that in this room, Sean is the outsider. Everybody here
Mhm.
all has the same interest with him as him, and he lets Sean know. He tells him,
Mhm.
yeah, he gives him very clear instructions on, you know what, if you don't like it, you can leave, but here I'm on top, and you can follow me if you want to solve this case.
Yep.
So yeah, if he does do that, and I do think that's cool because I mean, outside of the episode, I've only been to one con before, and I went with a friend to this like Star Wars convention. I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, but there is something really cool about being in a room with like 15,000 people that are all there because they love this one thing, or even this one genre of thing.
Mhm.
There's something cool about being able to like you can walk up to anybody and start a conversation about something. So
Mhm.
I will comment on that. That is a really cool energy and feeling.
Yeah. Okay, so 16 minutes, 31 seconds. Shawn is trying to figure out how in all of these people are we going to find these two kids that are the friends of this missing kid. And he's like, what are we going to do? So he jumps up on stage and starts with this con with everybody about how he's a psychic. This one guy in the audience asks, can you read me? So he's up there, and then Gus comes up there, and I really, this was great. He introduces Gus to the whole convention as his sidekick, Magic Head. Then every time he's starting to do a reading, he puts his hand on Gus's head, and Gus is not having it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every time. Yeah, he does it. He does this really good thing where he tries to like sneak his hand up behind it when Gus isn't looking, and then right when he touches Gus's head, Gus responds. He pulls it down and hides, and then he comes to his conclusion. Yeah, I love that. I love the Magic Head name too. Like,
Awesome.
yeah, it's
The
so
Magic
perfect for Shawn.
Head. He does it. He keeps trying. He keeps trying. And Gus is
Hmm.
like swatting his hand away. Like, get your hand off my head. Ugh, too
Well,
funny.
we did see Shawn try this before with Lassiter in Weekend Warriors. Whenever he tried to touch Lassiter's head and then he touched his face at one point too, like it's becoming part of his thing. Although, on a side note, this is something I was curious about last night. Is also for you, but also for the fans, if they want to weigh in
Mhm.
online, we'll post like a thing about it.
Okay.
What do you call Shawn's? I call them episodes. That's what I always come into. Like whenever he
Mhm.
does his psychic thing. Like, what do you call it? Like, whenever if you were to tell someone about it, like, so Shawn has his episode and his psychic episode, and he tries to touch Gus's head over and over again.
No,
Do you
that's
call
how
them
I would say
episode?
it.
You say episodes?
Yeah, that's how I would say it. Or like if he was having like a fake psychic vision, you
Okay,
know.
so like having a vision.
Yeah,
uh,
like
I guess. Okay.
something.
I was just curious what you call them too, because I was like, what am I? How do I describe this? I don't even know what to call this. And yeah, so okay,
I
I was just curious
definitely
about that.
refer to it as an episode, like when he solves the case, he's like having some, it's like an
Hmm.
out of body experience or
Trance
something for
or
him. Yeah. Yeah.
fake
But it's
trance.
all
Yeah.
fake.
Hmm.
So 19 minutes, 15 seconds, they meet George Takei. I'm not sure what the right way to say it is. And they totally convince him that they work for him. Um, Brilliant how they did it. Absolutely
Hmm.
brilliant. He was totally confused and believed them by the end of the conversation, and it carries on throughout the show. So funny.
Yeah.
Um,
This
I
is actually probably my
also
favorite part, I think. Honestly, I think one of my favorite
yeah.
parts was all the things involving George Takei. Takei? Yeah, I think it's Takei. All the things involving him, because I just thought it was not only was it a cool guest star,
Mhm,
but um, I loved the dynamic throughout it because it kind of evolves. We have this little, I don't know, like a mini scene with
mhm,
the guys in Takei, I think 3 or 4 times throughout the entire
mhm.
episode, where
Yeah.
they first meet, and then they meet again, and they meet again, and then, I think they're all really funny too, especially because Gus is a huge fan of Star Trek and
Mhm.
George, and Shawn is just relentlessly just, like, making him look bad
Right.
the entire
Right.
time. But
Yep.
no, I really liked those scenes.
Yeah, I do too. I also really love the underlying notion here that what they're trying to fix for George is blueberries.
I don't know if that was a thing yet.
I don't either, but man, it's really good in retrospect.
I'm almost curious if that is a real thing. Like, does George Takei have something where he has like in his rider, he has blueberries, like you must have
But
fresh blueberries, and maybe they're just making a joke about it. I don't
but
know, but
see,
I don't know
I'm
if it
thinking
ties
of
into
it
the
in
car.
terms of the car.
I
So
don't
like
That's another like
it's
5 episodes away.
yeah, but it's not the point. Like for me in retrospect, it is a funny tie-in. Whether it was intended or not, it's kind
Mhm.
of cool that something that plays such a role in this episode is about blueberries.
Yeah.
That's funny
No,
to
I
me.
I could
The
see it. I could
irony
see it.
there
I'm
is
not
funny.
sure if it's tied in or not,
It's
but I
just
can see it.
ironic.
Mhm. So at 21 minutes, we're in a hotel that Malone and his friends were staying in. Malone shelled out and got them one because he's rolling in dough. And Shawn discovers that Malone is an online influencer and a reviewist, and that also happens to be the guy that Gus follows, the malcontent. And this explains why he had all the money in his room. They found a cryptic message as well that said one down, two to go. So it definitely seems like it's pointing to a actual case, a kidnapping. After this, so once they now know that it is an actual kidnapping, we are back in the police station with Juliet, and we find out that she is also a nerd. She asks about how the convention's going, and when Gus tells her that he has his comic signed by the writer or the creator, she nerds out about it as well. And Shawn gives her a little bit of crap about it, but not nearly as much
Mm.
as Gus. So I
Yeah.
think it was cool that we got to see that side of Juliet.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know how much that comes out in the future too much,
I
but
don't I don't ever remember it coming out in the future, but I don't know.
I think it just means more. I think it's supposed to signify that she's more of like a fun person, and she
Mhm.
doesn't really care as long as it seems fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so now back to one of my favorite storylines. We're in back in the car with Lassie and the Chief. We're at 23 minutes 28 seconds here, and the Chief's water breaks. When this first happens, Lassie's like, "Can you move my briefcase?" I haven't had a chance to scotch card it yet.
And I am completely on Lassiter's side here. Completely. Like, I mean, yeah, you're in a situation, but you don't have to damage his property. You could just scoot it over.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, you're kind of just sitting there, you know.
she's in the middle of, like, going into labor. I'm sure that the last thing she's thinking about is his briefcase because, here she is. She's with first of all, you go into labor, right? You're with Lassie. Now, what in the heck good is that gonna do anybody being with Lassie? Then to top it off, her husband's not there. Like, this is not the most ideal of situations. So she's like, take me to the nearest hospital. So she gets there. But well, we'll go back to that. But right now, I just found it interesting that his worry was about his briefcase and.
And I think it makes perfect sense. I feel like she could have just moved the briefcase and not damaged
Ow.
it. But,
Have you ever tried to bend
it
forward
is
while pregnant? Not so easy.
I mean, it's really just an arm movement. She's sitting in the car. I don't
Yeah,
know.
she has a human in her belly. Not so easy. I will fight
Yeah.
you on this one.
Agree to disagree. Agree to disagree.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But after this scene, we're about 25 minutes into the episode. Gus is meeting one of his childhood idols, George Takei, again in person. And currently, George thinks that Shawn and Gus are his assistants. Um, George comes to Shawn with some complaints about things in his room, where it's located, missing blueberries. And Shawn, as he does, dumps all of the blame onto Gus again. And Gus is left speechless. He's baffled. He doesn't know what to say. He's looking at Shawn with like these piercing eyes, like, why are you doing this to me? And then he's looking sadly at George, who's like George has given him like the bad eyes. And
Mhm.
there's this one thing that I thought was really funny in this scene is when George was describing all the things, he mentioned something about it's affecting his chi.
Uh-huh.
And Shawn jumps onto Gus. What are you doing with George's chi? Touching it and whatnot? Stop it! Stop it, Gus! A parent with their kid, like giving them the stern look. I just thought it was a really funny one. That was a nice a quick little witty retort.
Yeah.
Touching
I
and
have
whatnot.
okay, so after this, we're at 27 minutes 13 seconds, by the way. Shawn is on his little fake date with this studio executive that is releasing this Red Phantom movie.
Date/interrogation, which is a common thing
Yeah.
that keeps happening.
Right. He's constantly using this as, like, his way to get information from people.
Mhm.
But it irritated me so much, something that she said. So she was answering a question and she said something and she said, "It's besides the point," instead of beside the
Oh,
point.
whether or
And
not he
it
got a
just,
consultation fee is besides the point.
yeah, it's besides the point. It's not besides the point.
I
It's
didn't catch
beside the
that.
point.
You're alone
It
in this
really
boat.
bothered me. It really bothered me. I don't know why. Maybe because I was inside a little mad that she was on a date with Shawn. Maybe I was
Could be.
looking for things to not like about her. But anyway,
Yeah, I
she,
didn't think they had chemistry anyways. That wasn't gonna
yeah,
last.
besides the point, I would like to note also that that was a very 90s outfit that girl had on. She had the low-rise jeans on and like the necklace was it was all very 90s. Very like early 2000s, late 90s. It was anyway.
So where
Just
we're at with the
a little
story in
note.
this scene is that he accuses them. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant following
I
up
was
with
like,
the
all
scene
right,
we're
then
in.
let's move on. Go
No, no,
ahead.
that's not what I meant. Like,
Yeah.
so in this scene, we come across a few things. So Shawn accuses her. I think her name is like Tracy or Judy or something. He accuses her of being involved in this thing. He thinks that the studio paid Malone. Malone, for whatever reason, stopped repping the film, and now
Mhm.
they are like kidnapping him for some reason. But there's, yeah, Talia said Talia. That's the name. Talia says that she isn't doing it. She has no idea what you're talking about, and she brings Shawn back to their office to talk with their boss, because Shawn has now told her that he's working with the police department. When they get back to the office, they find that Dent, her boss, the guy in charge, is missing, and there's a note in this room as well: two down, one to go. So now they definitely know that people are going missing.
Mhm.
We do get a little side scene here after that where Shawn and Gus are together just walking around, and George Takei calls Gus. Gus is enthusiastic to try and fix his name in his idol's eyes, and George just wanted to get in touch with Shawn. And on top of that, he invites Shawn only out to karaoke, which is a Trek fan's dream. And yeah, yeah, Shawn just really mm, letting Gus down.
Well, at 30 minutes, we're back to the chief and Lassiter. At 30 minutes, we're back to the chief and Lassiter, and we're at the hospital now. Clearly, she's about to give birth to this baby. The only person there is Carlton, and he tries to leave, and she's like, "No, no, I have to have a coach, you know." And he's thinking, "Okay, this is good. I did this. I did this in the academy. I can do this. I can do this." And I'm immediately afraid for her. Like, I'm going, no, this is not the person you want with you when you're giving birth, but we
hmm
will see how that goes. Um, Now 31
I
minutes,
mean,
12
again,
seconds.
I
Yeah.
I agreed with Laster on it. He was like, "Come on, you're gonna do this." He was motivating her.
Well, we're not even there yet. He hasn't even started motivate. We're just at the point
Oh,
where
that was the
he
epidural
tells her to
part. I'm sorry. Yeah,
stay,
I got
and
ahead.
it's like, "Okay, well, all right, you're staying." Well, I'm scared for her that he's the one that's gonna be there. We'll see how it goes.
Mhm.
Anyway, back at the con at 31 minutes, 12 seconds, Shauna and Gus are talking to Jules, trying to figure out who the third victim will be. And once again, Shawn tries to use the magic head. Gus still not having it. I thought that was funny though. He like is still trying. Even when he's not like on stage, he's still trying.
Mhm. Well, this is fun for him now. It's
Oh,
another way
well, yeah.
to mess with Gus. I
Yeah.
like that. We do find out that Shawn was right. He suspected that Talia was going missing too, because it all seems to be people involved with repping this Red Phantom movie. And they go and look for Talia, and they find out that she's gone. Her phone is on the ground where they last saw her. She was like partial the way through dialing 911. And close by, they find a note on the ground that says Judgment Day. So they got all three people, and they're running out of time.
So next scene, they are in like the lobby sort of the con, and Shawn starts. It's like he goes, oh, and he sees this bowl of cheese doodles on a table out there and starts eating them. I totally identified with Gus here because Gus was like, Shawn, you don't know where those have been. They could have bird flu on them or something.
Bird flu.
All I was thinking as soon as I saw the bowl, before Gus even spoke, was like, seriously, there are that many people there walking around that place and you're going to eat something just out of a bowl? No. No, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. Like, it was bothering me
See, I
even before you
notated
said
this
it.
scene for a completely different reason
Okay?
because I don't know, maybe I just feel the need to really stand up for Gus this episode. But Shawn is eating these cheese doodles. He's got Cheetos fingers. They're all
Mhm.
orange. And as Shawn, or I'm sorry, as Gus is like skimming through his this comic book that he's really excited he got, that was rare, that's signed by
First
the
edition.
author, first edition. He's reading through and he sees that the comic is representing what's going on in real life. The one down, two to go, two down, two to go, Judgment Day. Like this, what's going on in this comic book is what's going on in real life. And
Mhm.
Shawn, instead of just wiping his hands off or like looking over Gus's shoulder, he grabs the comic with his dirty hands, is just unapologetically flipping through the
Mhm.
pages, and then he ends up ripping the cover off and walking away with it.
Yeah, I thought that was
Completely
really
unnecessary.
mean. It was so
Yeah,
mean. It obviously meant something to Gus, and he's like destroyed it. He did not have to destroy it to do what
he
he was about
didn't.
to do. There
No,
was
no,
no
he
need
definitely
for
didn't.
that.
And at the end, Gus looks like he's about to cry. He's like, "You're
Uh-huh.
buying me another one." Again,
First
it's like they're kids.
edition.
Like, "Where you lost my ball. You're buying me another one."
Uh-huh. It was I just thought I did think it was really mean. I have
Mhm,
that noted here that Sean rips his comic book, and it was very mean.
mhm.
We go at 34 minutes back to the hospital. The chief is in full swing of giving birth to this baby. She's having a rough time, and Lassie has to coach her. The doctor says, "You need to be a coach now, you know?" He's like, "I got this. I got this." He tells her, he tells her, "Let's do this. It's time to squeeze this puppy out." She's like, "No, I don't need that." So then he tries to be sweet, and she's like, "I don't need that either." Finally,
So what do you
she
want?
has the baby.
I don't know what any woman wants.
Yep. He's she has the baby. Cleanest baby ever, I might add. I mean, this
Mhm.
baby came out sparkling clean, which, is not very realistic at all. And then Lassie gets to cut the cord, and he actually is the first person to hold the chief's baby. And in that moment, he starts talking about like that was one of the reasons that he and his ex-wife split up because she thought he didn't want kids and she was wrong about that. And he's like clearly having this really sweet, vulnerable moment. And so, I mean, I did think that that was cool. It's a little bit more backstory about why he and his wife broke up. And I like when that happens. I like when we get a little bit of the
I
behind the
overlooked that.
scenes.
That is a good point for this scene
Yeah.
and for some Lassie backstory. I did overlook that. I maybe it's
Mhm.
just because I was like bored with this scene. I was like, I didn't hear that part, but that is a valid point. So I get that.
Mhm. Yeah, there was definitely information within it.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of cool. We go back now to the con, where Sean and Gus are trying to bring this case to a close. Sean gets back up on the stage and he's up there. He's up there. The guy introduces him again as the psychic. And so then he brings up the magic head back up onto the stage and starts explaining the solution to the crime.
So Shawn wraps up the case. He does this because when he was looking through the comic before he just so rudely destroyed a possession of Gus's, he noticed the way that the O was written on the paper that was left behind, was the same as it was in the comic, and this led him to the creator. I can't even remember the guy's name right now, but this is the creator that they met earlier that Gus got to sign the comic, and the creator
The
did
green
this,
something. Yeah,
the Green Spirit,
the green spirit.
because he made this comic book character that was apparently very popular, and then he signed off a deal to make a movie, and they destroyed his character. They gave him a ridiculous costume, and they didn't listen to him when he told them what story was popular and would have made a good movie. So what he decided to do was, you know, take the storyline that he wanted to use, the one from this comic, and make it a real story. And I don't know if his goal was to like make it on the news to make it like a better version of it, but he does end up, or he ended up, kidnapping these people, and he was going to follow his script and set them on fire. Like he just kind of lost it that this thing that he birthed, this baby that he created that was loved, and based on the way they kind of showed him was like his meal ticket. It was like the one
Mhm.
like really popular thing he did. They killed it, and he was mad at the company for just casting it aside after they killed it, and then he was
Mhm.
mad at um, the malcontent kid Malone for
Mhm.
repping this company that supported him, especially when Malone was so popular. So, because Malone also, I believe they also mentioned, talks badly about the Green Spirit thing too. So
Mhm.
probably some built up resentment there.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
40 minutes, 57 seconds after they have solved the case, they are all at the hospital visiting the chief and the baby. And they're standing there talking about the baby. And the chief says, I'm going to be back at work tomorrow. And Shawn goes, No, you know what? Take some time with your baby. You need to be at home with your baby. And I think January is when you need to come back. So I don't know if you caught this, Matt, but that is when new episodes were going to air. So,
I
but
assume, I
When
assume that.
USA aired the show, they would air them in like chunks of episodes, several at a time. And then, so you would get like the first 8, and then it would be a couple of months before you got the rest of the season. So this is what he was talking about. January would be a good time. So that's how
Oh,
we know new episodes are going to air in January. And then I almost missed the very end of this episode. I don't know about you, but I almost didn't realize that it was going to go to something else, and they go back to
yes.
Henry's house.
Hmm.
And there,
The
there they are,
poster.
and Shawn brings out the poster of Psych Man and the magic head, and I loved it. I mean, Gus was so funny. He's like, why would the magic head need a wand?
Like, why does he have a wand? His
He's
head's
already
magic.
magic. But those
I
caricatures,
get it.
those
I'll relate with
drawings were
Gus.
awesome. They
Yeah,
were
they were.
awesome.
They were
So
awesome.
cute. So it
That'd
was
be
a
great.
really great way for the episode to end. So it
Just
was
a
a good
little fun,
episode.
little silly bit at the end. It was good.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Yeah.
our notable points. What do you got for an ah yeah moment?
So this episode just wasn't my favorite. I don't really feel like I had an all yeah moment this episode. I thought about it and I just don't know. I don't know what's yours because
Mine
maybe
was when
it'll
the chief
trigger
gave
something.
birth. I loved that part of the episode.
Okay,
You
yeah, that
hated
was
it.
not an
I
all
loved
yeah,
it.
not an all yeah
Yeah.
moment for me.
Yeah, I liked it.
Maybe you know
Um,
what? Maybe I'll give Gus some love because he got like crapped on so much this episode. Maybe when he
mhm,
was out by the car playing it cool because he knew about the con. Maybe that's the all yeah moment. Every time he kept touching his nose with his thumb, he's
mhm.
got that swagger about him. There's that all yeah moment. Hmm.
Let's see. I didn't have a come on son moment, did you?
Cheetos,
Cheetos all the way. Yeah, that's
Cheeto
a great
fingers
one.
with the comic book. Come on,
That's
son.
a
What are you doing?
that's that's a really good one. Wait for it moment. My wait for it moment was when he put it all together. It was kind of like the Cheeto moment because that's when he kind of figured it out. So it was when he tore the comic book because he knew who was doing it.
Hmm.
That was my wait for it moment. Did you have one?
Not. I don't know. I don't like my wait for it to be quite as literal. Um, I don't know. Sometimes I like to think about them also in the grand scheme of things, like in future
Mm-hmm.
episodes, maybe something pans out, maybe a behavior or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't feel it this time. I didn't really. I didn't grab
Okay.
a wait for it moment this time.
Got you. Do you have a Henry lesson? I'm the only Henry lesson that I got here was in real
Maybe
life. The
actually
cops were the
on
heroes.
wait for it. Maybe the scenes with George Takei. Because I those are scenes that I did look forward to going through with it. So maybe that would be my
Okay.
wait for it scene to see if Sean or if Gus got redemption with George.
Okay.
He didn't. But yeah.
All right. So now we talk about the Henry lessons. In real life, the cops are the heroes.
Yeah. No, or like you don't need, powers to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a hero by being brave and doing what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, similar lessons.
80s guest stars this time. We got to go with George Takei from Star Trek. I mean, that was like this is the first big 80s guest star we've got.
Hmm. I'm curious about the
Yeah.
background for that too. I wonder. what, like, how they got him? Was he interested in the show? Like, I don't know. I'm curious about that.
I
It's
think it was
something I should look
probably
up.
as the show gained some traction because clearly here they already knew they were making more episodes
Yeah.
because of how that was worked into the show. So if they knew that, the show was really, I mean, it was getting popular at that point. So I think that's where that kind of came from. Um, we had some um other 80s references of, when they were in the hotel room. So they were talking about Johnny Depp trashes hotel rooms, and they talked about Kate Moss. And then they dropped Keith Moon. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I didn't know who Keith Moon was, had to look it up. So he was the drummer
What?
for The Who. I know, I know. It's honestly,
Oh,
I've
he's a
never been a
drummer.
big
That's why.
yeah, well, I've never been a big fan of The Who anyway. So like this was like, I don't know who Keith Moon is. So
Yeah,
I did
nobody
look
knows
it
good
up.
drummers.
But yeah, well, I know a few drummers,
Well,
you
okay.
know. Yeah, so Steven Adler, Blas Elias. I mean, I could go on. I just, Rick Allen. I there are some very famous drummers, you know. For
Hmm.
me, Keith Moon wasn't one of them because I'm not a big fan. Anyway, so yeah, so let's see what else you
I
got.
do have a good change. A good
Okay.
change. I don't know. Again, this comes back to the Shawn cool thing. I feel like he gets
Mhm,
better. I feel like he still has his personality, but
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. This episode, it just seemed really extreme. So I feel like it doesn't happen like that again. I feel like he gets
Okay.
a little sillier as the episodes go on, and he gets more into those silly terms with Gus.
Okay.
So I couldn't find the pineapple in this episode.
Um,
I had no idea where it was. I thought I was looking pretty closely, but I didn't look it up either. So, I know that you did.
So apparently it was on the bag when Sean and Gus were buying churros. There was a lady in back of them that had it on a bag. It was like a bag she was carrying. That was a pineapple. So this one was a tough one. And this kind of ties into our listeners' question because sometimes where you find the pineapple is not actually a pineapple. So anyway, that
And
was the
actually, I just looked it up, and so the scene that it's stating is at 28 minutes 49 seconds exactly. Over Sean's right shoulder, there's a woman in a blue shirt, and she's got the bag.
Mhm.
And maybe we can post a picture about it and get people's opinions on it and see if that's it. I
Okay.
think the colors match, so I definitely think it's possible, but I don't know, might not be conclusive.
I
Ugh.
don't know. That's the closest we could get into the in this episode for it.
Yeah.
Nicknames, we had a couple. I mean, I know you referred earlier to Chocolate Colombo, nicknames
Magic
for
Head.
Gus, and the Magic Head.
Mhm.
Chocolate Colombo and the Magic Head. Um,
Also got
all
Psych
right.
Man, if we're going for
Uh,
everybody's
well,
nicknames.
yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you think this one held up over time, Matt?
It didn't hold up very well for me. I mean, as far as, again, the technology really stood out when they made it a part of the episode,
Mhm.
but putting that aside like we normally do, I don't think it's really fair to completely judge it by that. I mean, I guess it did hold up. The story was interesting. Um, I liked the dropping of clues, like, that was good as well, with everybody disappearing and slowly figuring out little pieces. So you know what? I'll change mine. I think it holds up okay over time. It just wasn't my favorite episode. Just the way that Sean was in it kind of threw me, and we didn't get Henry again, and
Mhm.
Laster wasn't with Juliet. So even though there was reasons for some things, I still it's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you haven't loved this one.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah,
I think it kind of held up over time because, obviously comics are something people still are very interested in.
yeah,
So, plot wise, it still holds up, still stands up. Aside from the early 2000s clothing and that sort of thing. And then, like you said, the tech, it does stand up for me. I think it's still funny today. We got food mentions, the churros, the cheese puffs, the pancakes. That was about it this time.
yeah. There's a couple different food mentions. So
Mhm. Do you have anything else to add about this episode? Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered most of it. I had some issues, but I think we covered those. And
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't awful, just not my favorite.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And I liked it, but I will say looking at what we're going to do next time, this upcoming one of my least favorites, but it is what it is. We're going to cover it anyway. On our next episode, we will be discussing season 1, episode 9, which is titled Forget Me Not.
Check us out on our Facebook group, We Know You Know, a podcast about psych for updates on when we're recording, when we're dropping new episodes, as well as we want to start doing some questions so we get some fan responses on there as well.
Mhm. You can also find us on Instagram at thepsychpodcast.
Or you can email us in questions or comments to thepsychpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll talk about them on the show.
Thank you guys for listening and hanging in there for another episode with us.
Yep. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy the show.